Aretha Franklin. Linda Wootton from Rayleigh in Essex had a heart and lung transplant in 1989. From that point, she was in and out of hospital all the time and was unable to work. She was a long-term recipient of incapacity benefit. Last month, the Department for Work and Pensions told her they were cutting her disability benefits and she should go back to work. She received this news as she lay seriously ill in hospital. 9 days later, on April the 25th, Linda died at the age of just 49. And it's the latest in a series of cases over the past 3 years where people who are severely disabled or terminally ill have been told they no longer need disability benefits and are fit to work. The private company Atos Healthcare has been responsible for conducting the face-to-face assessments as part of a government drive to reduce the welfare bill. It was Atos that assessed Linda in January this year. In a session lasting just 20 minutes, they asked her questions along the lines of, can you understand simple messages from a stranger? And can you use a computer keyboard or mouse and a pen or pencil with at least one hand? And it was an Atos employee who decided Linda no longer needed benefits. Let's have a look at this in some more detail. Let's talk to Linda's widower, Peter Wootton, who joins me on the line now. Peter, my condolences to you. Can you describe Linda's state of health when she was examined by Atos face-to-face?
Well, the day she was examined, I had to drive her to the centre. She was very, very nervous, and that made her blood pressure go up and down like a yo-yo. So we drove down there, very, very apprehensive, upset. She shook anyway because of the long-term use of steroids and other anti-rejection drugs. So when we got down there, she was fairly shook up, but we sat ourselves down and the lady came out. And unfortunately, I couldn't go in, so Linda went in on her own, so I wasn't actually present for the assessment.
No. I mean, Linda, I think, prior to this assessment, could be described as not a well person. I mean, after all, she'd had a heart and lung transplant way back in the 80s. What was the history of her ill health, Peter?
Well, it started in 1985. 7 weeks after we got married, she was diagnosed with a complaint which meant her heart and lungs were damaged.
Yeah.
She had to have a transplant in early October 85, which rejected almost straight away. We got through to 86 and she went back to work. She didn't want to give up work. She enjoyed her job at the local council and she went in, but she had infection upon infection. She caught pneumonia, which hospitalised her for over a month. She had chickenpox, which put her in hospital for 6 weeks. Numerous chest infections, and obviously every time she got an infection, rejection set in. With any transplant, that's a real worry.
Yes.
It got to the tail end of 88 and she couldn't go to work. She was on the sick for 6 months prior to the transplant. I had to drive her up there on a Sunday, put her into hospital, then go back on a Friday, pick her up, get the oxygen bottles delivered and have her home for the weekend, then take her back on a Sunday.
Goodness me. I mean, so when you hear people talking about scroungers and malingerers and people who are perfectly capable of doing an honest job but just don't feel like it, it doesn't sound to me as if your Linda fitted that category by any means whatsoever, did she?
Well, no. The worrying thing is that I think it's about 5 years ago, she had an assessment by the DWP before Atos took over, and she was passed as unfit for work. 5 years later, now we've got Atos involved, and she suddenly passed fit for work, even though her health has deteriorated. She's now got osteoarthritis in both hands because of the steroids. Her skin splits and tears very easily, and her blood pressure, well, just dropped through the floor. She just suddenly, she collapsed 4 or 5 times in the high street. She described woke up on the pavement.
Right, so could she have done any job? Was there any job at all that you think that your late wife would have been capable of doing?
She couldn't do anything for more than 3 days. After 3 days, exhaustion had set in, the shakes would get worse, and the blood pressure would go up and down like a yo-yo.
Now, what we understand about these Atos face-to-face, I don't want to, what do you want to call them, assessments, is that you're supposed to score no points. And if you score no points, that means you are fit for work. Every point that you score means you're less and less fit. And if you get 15 points, you definitely can't work and you're not past fit for work. Now, Linda scored no points, meaning that she was 100% fit to go to work. What state was she in on that day? You told her she was nervous, you told her she was shaky, she wasn't capable of driving a car, but was she also ill on that day?
Well, only the usual issues with her blood pressure and everything else. I mean, she went in there and saw the lady and she came out crying. because of the stress of it all. But the problem was, it was a stamina thing and her blood pressure. She couldn't rely on her body to do what she wanted every day. She could probably go to work on a Monday, possibly a Tuesday. She'd be off sick Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, may go back in Monday. There's no way she could hold any form of regular employment because she couldn't trust her body to do what she wanted it to do.
Can you tell us what condition Linda was in when she received the letter saying, yes, this is the letter from Atos saying you are fit to go to work? How was Linda on that day?
The second letter, the final letter we got when they turned down her appeal, she was actually sat in the hospital bed at Harefield Hospital. She was getting fed 5 litres of oxygen on a face mask. She was also doing breathing exercises with a thing called a bird, which expanded her lungs, and she had chronic clots in both lungs. It's to such an extent that the doctor said we don't normally see this in living patients.
And this is the day that she gets the letter saying, we pronounce you fit for work.
That's the one.
Can you tell us how much distress all of this caused her, in addition to the distress she's obviously going through hugely with being so very unwell?
Well, this had gone on for a year because it started February 2012 when they cut her benefits and said they was going to reassess her, and because she wanted to work. We didn't have arguments, we had a little discussion. She said, I'll go back to work. No, you can't, because if you go back to work, you'll die because of the infection. So I want to go back to work. I said, well, don't look at it as you're going to go back to work. You're either going to get paid your benefits or you're not, and we'll have to move and do what we can do with what we got. But she was constantly worried about people perceiving as being a scrounge. She kept saying, am I wrong? Can I work? And the answer was quite obviously no, because any infection she got, what actually finally tipped the balance was a common cold. She caught a common cold in January. It went to her chest. She had some tests. Her lung collapsed. She then got blood clots, and within 20 weeks she was dead.
And she was dead at the age of 49. Now, you say that she felt humiliated and embarrassed and as if other people were thinking that she was a scrounger. This is at the same time as undergoing this, advanced medical treatment, having had a heart and lung transplant. I mean, you also say, and I think lots of people having heard your story will identify with you so strongly when you say you're so angry about this, you can barely manage to grieve for Linda.
Well, no, I mean, the grieving process is something which will go on for the rest of my life. The whole point in doing this was really to raise awareness. There's plenty of people out there. We see the stories about the scroungers there every day, but we don't hear the other side of the coin. And there are people out there who need these benefits, need them desperately to live. We was fortunate we could survive without, but they need them, and they're being treated like this. Linda is one case out of thousands.
Well, Peter, I'm glad you've had the opportunity to tell your story, and thank you very much indeed for telling us what must have been a very, very painful story indeed for you. And as I said, our deepest condolences on your bereavement. We are taking your calls on this. I don't know whether you found yourself in a similar situation or if you feel very differently about it. The number's 0500 288 291, or of course you can always email vine@bbc.co.uk.